Yo, what is going on, guys? Cryptic TMG back with a brand new video, and today we're going to be showing you this race we had around Silverstone, and it's a pretty good one, man. I'm back in the Porsche, fast becoming my favorite GT3 to drive. I can't even lie. I just feel like the car feels so good, and even in fix, man, like it still feels quite natural to drive a Porsche. I never thought I would ever say that, but start of the race, let's get going. We're next to Nico Barkley, who's in the Aston. We got Carl up ahead. Another guy, Porfier, I think his name is, in the BMW. And guys, as you can see, if you look on the left hand side of the top, there's all different types of cars at the top at the moment. So the BOP is looking pretty decent. I have to say, at the moment, this is probably the best the BOP has looked in quite some time, and luckily didn't manage to get taken out at the start of the race as what normally happens, but we managed to get away clean. There was a little bit of a kerfuffle with the Aston on the grass, but we're in 4th position, just behind Nico Barkley, and we're going to try and see if we can keep up with the guys in front. It was an insanely fast field as well. A lot of the guys in this race are sort of in the top 15 on the leaderboard, so definitely a quick race, and I was feeling good in the Porsche, to be honest. The Porsche it's just a nice car to drive. I think what helps it as well is that it uses max swing on the fixed setup, so there's plenty of grip. You don't sort of feel like the car's on edge. There is a little bit of understeer, particularly through that corner, but at the same time, you know, you feel pretty safe driving the Porsche at the moment. The only thing is, the only downside is probably straight line speed just not there. Very, very hard to make an overtake when you literally have got no straight line speed to battle people in a straight line. But you can see behind me we've got Dowking. Dowking chose to take the Ford, and even in the Ford, he's still keeping up with the guys in the front. So you can see, man, it's a nice little mix of cars, different strengths and weaknesses. For me, definitely the Porsche was making up time in the last sector. That was where we were pretty strong, and on the brakes as well. But other than that, it was it was a bit of a struggle, and I knew while the tires were fresh, that's when everybody's at their quickest. So that's the time where it's going to be very, very hard to defend and stuff like that. So had to focus, had to stay on it. You could see already Carl at the front pulling away, but for me it was important to focus on the energy, because there is a pit stop in this race. And earlier on in the week I was thinking, yo, can you actually get away with doing the no fuel stopper in this one? But I think they made it 32 minutes instead of the 30, so you definitely weren't making the no stopper work. So it was a straight strategic push and try and save energy at the same time. And I believe the Porsche is actually pretty good on energy around this track, so that was good for me and for the pit stop. But as you can see, Carl pulling away at the front, also Porfier, those two were kind of pushing the pace, and you can see, look at their energy, they're like 1% down already, and we're starting lap 4. So I sort of needed to sort of hold the gap around about where it is right now, no bigger than like 3.5 seconds. And if we can, you know, eke out the energy and maybe try and do an extra lap, then we could be right there with a pit stop. But it was going to be tough because they were seriously fast, and of course we still had the fact that the LMP3s were in this race as well, so I wasn't too sure when they were going to come through and lap us. So it's a little bit up in the air, because, you know, with the timings you have to work it out perfectly with how the LMP3s, or the faster class in general, where they're going to finish the race. So at the moment it was saying we were going to do 17 laps, then it switched to 16.5, so it was like, yo, I don't even know how much fuel I'm going to have to add right now, because we're like literally not sure what's going to happen. And that's where it gets a little bit tough. But you can see now it's gone down to 16.2. So I was thinking, so far I've only seen one race go to 17 laps, and that was because, you know, it was an insanely fast GT3 field. So I was hoping that we did 16, but at the same time, if we could eke out the extra lap, this is what is good about saving energy. Let's just say you're in a race and you save energy one more lap than somebody else, and then they pit, and when they pit it says 16.9 laps, but during their out lap it then goes to like 17.2, then you know to add the extra fuel, and they're screwed, so they're gonna have to save. So that is the good thing about saving energy. It allows you to open up the strategy, and it gives you all the options. You know, the earlier you pit, the more risk you have to take, because of course you can choose to do the short stint where you sort of do 4 laps in a race and then pit for a full tank, but if the race then goes past where you think it will, you're kind of snookered, because now you can't really add any extra fuel, and it might mean you have to stop again and lose, you know, possible position. So that is the good thing about stretching the energy as much as you can, but at the same time you can't lose too much time. Now you can see we've dropped to about 4.2 behind Carl at the moment, so he's pushing on at the front. We've got around 2% more, lap 6, so it's not too bad. Normally we should get to around about 4 or 5%. By the time we get to the pit stops, we should have around 4 or 5% more. So hopefully we can do something, but I feel like I had a decent lap, managing to close up a little bit on Barkley. Through the first sector he had me a little bit, definitely down the straight, but when we got to the last sector I was taking loads out of him. And I think Porfier in the BMW, I think he's cooked his tyres just a little, because he started to drop back towards us right now, so that was good. Plus he was only on 42% as well, so I was pretty sure he would have to either stop much earlier than us, well not much earlier, like a lap, or he would have to have a longer pit stop. So the fact that we were this close, I knew pretty much we would probably jump him in the pits if we can stay within a smaller gap. Not too sure what happened to Dowking. I think he had a moment, so he's now dropped behind Siebert in the Aston. We've got an LMP3 behind us as well, and I believe this LMP3, he was like struggling at the back of the field, bro. He was just making mistake after mistake, so he kept overtaking me and re-overtaking, so I let him go. I let off the throttle here, let him go into the fast right-hander. Just didn't want no smoke, because I know sometimes these guys in the braking zone, they lose it a little bit, so I'm just trying to let him go and see if he can hold somebody else up. But he was actually being pretty respectful. He was waiting until the straights to make the moves, which obviously helps us, because when they dive it into the corners, that's when you're not sure whether you can turn in or not and stuff like that. But it cost us a little bit of time. We're like a second behind now. You can see now, look, we've even eking out the energy, same as Nico in front. Nico's doing a pretty good job when you consider that him and Carl are in the same car, and Carl has 4% less, and they're in the same car. I think Nico actually had a little bit more energy than me, so he was doing a great job with the fuel, with the virtual energy. So pretty insane driving, because he was still quick, and we would close up now and again, but not all the time. But 2021 was not a great lap for us. But moving on forward to lap 11, and we're getting pretty close to the pit stops right now. Again, you can see we're sort of 6/10 behind Barkley. We're stretching the gap to the guys behind, and yeah, the guys behind as well, they've got less energy, so I wasn't too worried about that. You can see now, look how much more energy we have than Carl. I don't know how Carl uses so much virtual energy, but he's down to 16%. We still have 21. I've managed to eke it out now, so me and Nico are roughly around about exactly the same, so our pit stop should be around about the same time. So the in lap and the pit in is going to be very, very important, but we need to make sure we close the gap a lot, particularly when we are coming into the pits, because we're probably going to have the exact same pit time. So that was what was going to be important. We've managed to stabilize the gap to Carl. Carl's no longer really pulling away, so we probably needed to have it around, you know, the 3-second mark. I feel like if we were going to successfully jump him from this distance, 5 seconds is a little bit probably too big, but we're gonna see what we can do. Definitely need to make ground, and the thing is that I could get close to Nico, but I couldn't really overtake. He just had way too much straight line, bro, I'll be honest. But the Porsche pretty good on the brakes, and I'll tell you the truth, man, that on the tires as well, I was so surprised how good the Porsche was on the tires, man. Normally the Aston is definitely like king of the tire wear, probably with the Lexus and the Ford, but the Porsche just felt great on tires. I wasn't really wearing the tires at all. Normally in the past the Porsche was a bit of a rear tire killer, and it just wasn't the case for me in this race, man. I just had grip on grip, and when it got to the sections like the last sector with all the tight corners, I was gaining loads. But lap 12, and I believe the two cars in front, the leader Carl and Poffier, both into the pits at the same time. So this is where we had to sort of get a move on and make sure we had a good in-lap, and could I close up to Nico before the pit stops? That was going to be the most important thing, because, you know, we knew we had to absolutely send it if we were to jump the cars who stopped a lap earlier. Now you're going to get to see the difference between what roughly 5% more virtual energy works out in terms of time if you manage to nail your pit stop perfectly. And do you know, the thing is, like, a lot of people that come from other games like ACC, where sometimes you just overfuel and it just doesn't really mean that much, you know, the pit stop's sort of the same. On this game, it means a lot. You have to get your pit stop absolutely spot on, because a lot of the time the strategy, the virtual energy, means so much more in terms of where you're going to feed out. And that's what I really, really love about this game. It has that sort of essence of, you remember the old school F1 with the refueling and, you know, just making sure that everything's spot on to make your strategy work. That's what I feel like this game actually has, that a lot of other games don't. Whereas ACC, it was always just, you just come into the pit lane, didn't care if you were 2 or 3 laps over, your pit stop was 30 seconds anyway. Whereas this, it matters. You know, if you overfuel, it's going to cost you some seconds, and those seconds in a race like this could be vital to whether you win or even get on the podium. So yeah, but you can see we have managed to close up to Nico, right behind him now. This is our in lap. We're going to have to push, because after this there's only going to be 3 laps to go. So we have to get our virtual energy spot on for the pit stop. We've got 3 laps selected. Well, I actually selected like probably 3.4 laps, I think. But look at our virtual energy. We're down to 0.3. So we've run it pretty close. Both me and Nico into the pit lane. He cuts across the grass a little bit, but he starts braking so early, and I just send it around the outside. I'm like, what are you doing, bro? And I actually overtake him on the way into the pits. I thought I actually was speeding. I was sure I was going to get a penalty. I was like, there's no way, bro. I was so caught out by how early he braked, but leaving the pits, we didn't get no penalty. We did not get no penalty. We nailed it. You can see we managed to take out around 3.5 seconds to Carl, just by hitting the pits perfectly. And I feel like he slightly overfueled as well, because he's on 25%, I'm on 22%, so he definitely overfueled. The gap probably would have been around maybe the 2.5 seconds corrected if he would have fueled where he's supposed to. But we've got Puffia right behind us, so we managed to jump him. He's right behind us. He's got this straight line speed on us. The BMW sends it towards the inside, we cover, and he just touches the back of our car. And even though we didn't get damage, it makes him snap and he loses it. And that pretty much just guarantees us second place, because somehow Barkley managed to get a drive-through penalty, even though he entered the pit so slowly. So I don't even know how that happened, man. But he's managed to get a drive-through. And it's like, wow. How the hell did that happen? You know, that pit-in was scary. But as we come towards the end of the race, Carl manages to hold on. We come back in second position. And it was such a good race. I decided, you know what? I think I'm going to have another one. Because Silverstone, at the moment, definitely has the best bop that I've experienced in terms of the GT3. So we're going to go again for another race. We did back-to-back, lads. Back-to-back. And this time we qualified in 3rd position. We're behind Bago in the Lambo and Radichonsky. I'm going to say his name, Radichonsky. I think that's his name, bro. I hope it's his name. He's in the AMG. I knew it was going to be insane off the start. AMG has crazy acceleration. Could we get a good start? We actually got away pretty well. The Porsche is not too bad in the old accelerator either. But, of course, he covers the inside. And, yeah, we didn't want to have any sort of incidents, because normally it's absolute carnage in Silverstone on lap 1. Just try and make sure we get through. We got Sasbo up our inside. This guy in the AMG, bro. The acceleration was just crazy. And we're trying to go too wide through Maggotts and Beckett's. Carl nudges him, almost bins him right behind us. But Carl was sort of bogged down, had a bad qualifying. So he's actually stuck in the mid-pack at the moment and not able to use his pace. We get a run on the AMG, but you're quickly going to find out that we just don't have any straight line speed to battle with whatsoever. And instead, we end up defending, sent it down the inside. It was pretty important to hold on to this position, because I felt like I got decent race pace. And again, towards the end of the last race, our pace was pretty strong, so I just want to stay in the mix with the leaders until we get to the end. Carl making a move around the outside, hits the curb and spins it, and Carl is going to be sent to the back of the field, and that is one opponent down. But look at the run out of that corner where the Porsche has understeer. Sasbo absolutely sends it. We go deep into the corner, and he's going to get the switch back on us. We're a little bit wide, and he actually makes the move, and I was thinking, oh my god, that was not what we needed to happen. But as long as he's fast, I didn't mind too much. As long as he had the pace to stay with the leaders, I didn't mind. But the leaders in quali were absolutely flying, particularly Bago in the Lambo. He was seriously fast, man. So the Lambo, I need to try it around here. The Lambo looks like it's got pace. I'm not sure about the tyre wear, but the pace looks decent. So again, I thought, you know what, we're going to have to run the same strategy again. We're going to end up saving fuel, saving virtual energy, and hopefully that can help us out in the strategic battle. But again, it's going to depend on the gap to the leaders. We need to make sure we keep the leaders within sight. It's got to be around about 3.5 seconds. That's the gap I was aiming for. But Bago was very, very fast, so I thought, yeah, if he gets in the lead, I don't know if we're going to be able to stay within that gap, particularly now we are stuck behind the Mercedes. And that's the thing about this race, man. Like, earlier on, the Mercedes is rapid, absolutely flying. You can see the Mercedes is on the leader as well, putting the leader under pressure. But after a few laps, it just seems like the Merc just drops off that little bit, and that is where I sort of have the trouble overtaking and putting them under pressure, because of course most of the overtakes you want to sort of get a run on these guys down the straight, and we weren't getting a run on nobody, not in this thing. We didn't have no straight line speed. And you can see now we've got the LMP3 behind us, making me kind of nervous, of course, because sometimes you don't know whether they're going to send it through the fast corners. I sort of pull to the left hand side instantly, trying to, you know, give him the option to take the inside. He does take the inside, but just look how early he brakes. I actually let off the throttle early to let him go, but he still brakes in the same place, and I don't feel like that's where the LMP3s are supposed to brake. But again, when you're up against the lesser experienced guys at the back, they are extremely early on the brakes. So I was like, bro, this is just losing me time. The gap to the leader now 4.1 seconds or so, and yeah. So for me, like, I already thought it's going to be very, very hard to close that gap. We've only got sort of 24 minutes or whatever. So now when I go into corners, sometimes I will lift a little bit early just so I can save as much virtual as possible and try and get back the time in the pit stop, because it's going to be very hard to get it back on track and knowing how fast those guys were. So again though, we managed to close up towards Zasbo. I think his name's Zasbo. Like, I'm butchering names, lads. I'm absolutely butchering names, but it is what it is. But we managed to close up a little bit, particularly the last sector again is where we just managed to find time. But I can tell you, man, that AMG out of the corners is an absolute missile. I could not do anything. Even when I was behind the Aston, it would get away down the straight because it had more straight line speed, but out of the corners, I felt like I could stay within a car's length. And if I would have got a good run on the Aston, I feel like I could possibly challenge into one of the corners. But the AMG was just, it's just gone. Like, I can't do nothing. I feel like it's down to the advanced traction control that the AMG has, because the AMG, you can get away with running like 220, 221, slam your foot down, and the back end really doesn't step out at all, you know. And that's where I feel like it gains a lot. And he kept on hitting the little sausage curbs that slightly unsettled the car, and it was affecting his speed a little bit. But still, down the straight, just look, even though I felt like I got a good run and I'm up on my time, I just could not get anywhere near when it came to a straight line. Of course, you know, it's frustrating, but again, the Porsche is so nice to drive, particularly around this circuit, and I knew it was good on virtual, so I just thought I'll probably just get him on the virtual energy. But he could cost me the race or the chance at winning the race because of how far we're dropping back behind. And that mistake that I made earlier on, where I let him pass and made the mistake into this corner, is coming back to bite me now, because although I know I'm probably going to jump him in the pits because he's using up a little bit more energy, it's going to stop me from, you know, getting towards the other guys at the front. Bago's starting to stretch his legs a little bit. I think he was just getting held up by an LMP3 on this lap, so we've actually managed to close in a little bit. That helped us. We need more of that. We need more things holding them up because he was starting to show some real pace, but if you look at their virtual energy, their fuel is not that much worse off than mine. So they're on 62%, I'm on 63%. It's not a big enough difference to really do anything in the pit, so we needed to save more while we was behind this guy because of course we're struggling to do anything. You can see again out of the corners I'll get a decent exit. It's just not enough. He just pulls and pulls and pulls, and by the time we get to the next corner I'm nowhere near being able to send a move. But we were the fastest on that last lap. We did a 2:01.3 and still, you know, just couldn't make the move. Again, as we come towards the end of lap 6, right behind the guy in front in the AMG, but look at the gap he's able to pull on us. We just couldn't do nothing, and it was just losing us time. Now I was getting frustrated because I couldn't overtake. I could tell his tires were starting to go off because he was starting to lose time in some of the fast corners where he wasn't losing time before, so I knew he was starting to struggle. And there's a puff of smoke in front. I didn't know what was going on at the time, but I think Bago in the Lambo went off. He made a mistake. The guy who was leading made a mistake. He was the guy that definitely was the one to watch after quali because he was seriously fast, but he's dropped down, spun, did a 360 no scope, must have damaged his tires now. So I was thinking, yo, this might be a chance, you know, because the AMG in the lead is more likely to drop off the pace when it comes to tires. So if we could keep this gap around 3 seconds, I've only got 1% extra, but if I can, you know, keep pushing that, keep pushing the virtual energy, maybe by the time we get to the pits, he might end up having to pit a lap earlier. And you can see he's dropped down to 49. I've got 50%, so he's about 1% less. By the time we get to the pit stops, hopefully we can get that to like 3% or so, and that may allow us to do the extra lap, and we could have a chance at jumping in. But we're going to have to get pretty close before the pit stops. We're going to have to make sure it's no bigger than 3.5 seconds, and let's see what we can do. But we needed to get rid of Zasbo in front of us because he was just holding us up. Maybe these two could fight and we could try and slip through somewhere. That was the only thing I could think of, because in a straight line we were on the struggle bus when it came to straight line speed, man. But even the guy behind us in the Corvette, he was doing a pretty good job. The Corvette's actually got the fastest time around here at the moment, which is insane because I haven't really seen anyone able to really, you know, go super fast in that car in person. But I've seen the lap time at the top of the leaderboards, which is like a 2:01, which is crazy. But as you can see, we are still in the midst of a battle. We've got another LMP3 coming up behind us, coming to lap us. And I was thinking, yo, I might have a chance here if he laps him at the wrong point. As they send it into Magus and Beckett's, bro, that was super close. But as I thought I was going to be able to get the run, LMP3 swoops around, stuck between me and Zasbo in front. So I can't do anything, can't get a run. Yeah, it was just jarring. It was like the wrong time to catch me out in the corner. And you can see Bago in the Lambo. He's actually still got pretty good pace, man. He's still flying even though he had that massive spin. And the AMG leading is about 4.2 seconds ahead. So we've lost a little bit of time. Lost a bit of time to the AMG. But of course, don't know what's going to happen. A lot of the time, the couple of laps before the pit stop, some people tend to drop off the pace a little bit, which is what I was hoping. We've got around 2% extra, so I don't know if that was enough to do the extra lap. I think it was last time we had just enough to do the extra lap, so hopefully we can manage to eke out that extra lap. It's going to be pretty important in terms of the strategy. We just needed Zasbo out of the way. He was just at this point holding us up a lot, and on top of that he was starting to make mistakes as well, and there was just nothing I could do. Like, out of this corner, the understeer in the Porsche was insane. And just look at the way the AMG pulls away. There's really nothing we can do from this sort of distance. I can't send a crazy dive bomb because if he turns in, then obviously I'm just at fault. Just look at the gap he's managed to amass through that sector. It's crazy, but we were making up a lot of time in these few corners. His car just seemed like he was just squirming everywhere, like struggling big time. Look at the back of his car, absolutely everywhere. But this was the chance we needed, right behind the AMG. We've got a nice little run. Look at the slipstream. But again, lads, he's still pulling, even with us in the slipstream. I was going to send it through here, but again, AMG is pretty good on the brakes. Going to be pretty hard to overtake around that corner. Hard to outbrake an AMG. But again, he's just making these weird lines. It's so slow through the corners. And lads, I was so blessed when he pitted. I was like, yes, 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 he's pitted. Now it was time to get my head down. We did a 2-minute free, which is, bro, a 2:03 is so slow. We lost about 1.5 seconds, and again, the gap to the leader is about 5.3 seconds. Now at the end of lap 10, we're going to cross the line. Leader does a 2:01.8. Bago didn't have a great lap. We do a 2:01.7, slightly quicker, but definitely not enough. Need to keep on pushing. All that time wasted behind Zasbo and the AMG really cost us, man. We lost a good chunk in those last laps before he pitted. But yes, coming around again towards the end of the lap, and I feel like the AMG was held up, I believe, by some LMP3, so we've got the gap down to like 2.93 seconds, and he did pretty well on the virtual energy. He's only 2% less. He's only got 2% less as he heads into the pit lane, so we're going to see the difference between 2% and what we had in the last race was round about, I think it was 5% we had. So we didn't gain as much as we wanted to on virtual energy on the last lap, because we needed it to be a bigger difference. So he was stationary in the pits for a little bit longer, sort of the same distance we had between me and Carl in terms of virtual energy was about 5%. We needed that amount and to see if we could jump in, but this was going to be close. It was like 2.9 seconds as we went into the as he went into the pit. So let's see where it is this time. We send it into the pits again, and I thought I sped in that time. I hit neutral and I really slowed down, and I was sure I was gonna get a drive-through, bro. If the last one wasn't a drive-through, this one is definitely a drive-through, because bro, I sent it into the pits. I don't know what I was doing. I did overslow on entry, so I've probably cost myself a little bit of time. And as we leave the pits, again, there's no drive-through. So somehow we got away with it. And the AMG comes out, and he's actually been jumped by Bago. So yeah, we managed to get the gap down to 1.7. So we've gained around about 1.3 seconds. I feel like I probably lost maybe half a second or so in the pits with that entry, because the entry was pretty bad when I hit the brakes and then really overslowed the car because I thought I sped in. So I feel like I could have been round about maybe 9 or so tenths behind, but of course, you know, I was happy just not to have the drive-through. So we're coming towards the end of the penultimate lap, and you can see we've just closed down on Bago just a little bit, but look at his percent. He's actually pretty low. He's about 2% lower than us, and I don't know whether he was going to make it on fuel or whether he's got it spot on. I feel like he probably got it very, very close to perfect, because we still had about 1.5 left going on to the last lap. So it was going to be sort of touch and go for him. He probably had to save just a little bit on the last lap, but of course we were lapping, still doing 2:01.7, so we had good pace, man. We definitely managed to make our pace last throughout the race, and as I said before, that I was pretty impressed with how the Porsche was on tyres, and I feel like that's why you've seen such a popularity rise with the car at the moment, because it just seems like it's in the right place in the bop and the way how the car uses its tyres and stuff. So now you're starting to see more people choosing the Porsche. I've seen more people in a Ferrari recently. Even the McLaren felt pretty good when we tried it. So yeah, it's promising at the moment. As I said before, it's the best the BOP's been in quite some time. They have killed the Lexus a little bit. I don't know whether it's overkill or whether it was needed. It definitely was super strong, but maybe just a tad too slow at the moment. You know, if they could just eke it, give it maybe a couple attempts, I feel like it'll be back in the window. But yeah, not complaining at the moment because, as I said before, I think the BOP is looking pretty good. And I just wish we were not stuck behind Zasbo at the start of this race. And I feel like I would have been a lot closer to these guys. And again, the end of race pace of the Porsche is looking pretty strong. We're managing to close the gap until the back end of the car steps out. But we managed to close the gap down to 1.3. I wish I would have nailed the pit stop and got everything perfect. The mistake I made earlier on in the race, it cost us, man, and you can see how close it is at the end. We're in sight of the win, only 3 seconds in front. So we're having some good races at the moment, man, definitely. But we're gonna come across the line, last lap of the race. We're gonna get another podium. It's another celebration, lads. We hit the podium again around Silverstone. And yeah, guys, I'm telling you, man, try the Porsche out. It is feeling pretty decent at the moment. Yeah, my driver ranking at the moment is managing to survive, even though we've had a couple of crashes. But we still managed a couple of good races. So, guys, we're going to have to slap on that celebration. Other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Cryptic TNG, like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to catch my videos first. And peace.